Thanks for checking out this video. So here I go. I'm going to go over my personal top 15 Vinegar Syndrome releases of 2024. Again, this is just personal. I tried to take a lot of things into account, like the actual movie itself and how much I like that or how good I think it is or not, versus also like the special features and the essays and a bunch of other things that kind of roll into that. So I was trying to look at the release as a whole, but the movie obviously is a big portion of it. The other thing is I did not get every single film that they put out this year or in 2024 because it's 2025 now. I didn't get everything that they put out, but I got a large majority of it. So there probably are a few things out there that I potentially missed that maybe would have made this list, but I'm thinking probably not based off what I've seen reviews-wise from people. And this does include every type of Vinegar Syndrome release, whether it's like their VSL, VSA, VSU, VSP, degosser, cinematograph, all that stuff. So it includes all those that could be in this. So let me go ahead and start with number 15, and that one is Invasion USA. This is a 4K. Really enjoyed this film. I had never seen this film before. It's your typical Chuck Norris fare. It is him taking on an entire army, literally, basically. So it's basically a Russian force invades through Florida, trying to take over the entire United States. That's why it's called Invasion USA. And Chuck Norris is the only person who can stop them. And it's like him with two Uzis. And it is just action-packed. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It is so much fun. Not only that, it has a lot of great special features that gives you some interesting insight into how the film ended up getting made and kind of the different iterations of it. There's also an essay booklet in here, which I didn't expect to get essays about Invasion USA, but you do. And the essays are very informative, very interesting. Again, kind of giving you backstory on how the film ended up getting made and kind of some behind the scenes stuff about it. So this is a really fun one. I had not seen this before and just immediately fell in love with it. And it's a very good release. And it looks great. It looks phenomenal in UHD. So yeah, Invasion USA, my number 15. I'm going to need to get my phone out, by the way, just to make sure I'm staying on track with which number is what. Let's just have it as a quick reference guide. Anyway, okay, going to number 14, let's go with the double pack, the China OBrien release. This is two movies, China OBrien and China OBrien 2. I'm a fan of Cynthia Rothrock. I think her martial arts are outstanding. They've released a lot of her stuff through Vinegar Syndrome, and this is a really fun one. The first film is the best. The second film's not that great. They apparently shot the films at the same time, but this one is just action-packed fun, and the first one is very fun. It's a great film. It is such a great time. The second one, there's still some good moments in it, but you can tell they were kind of more phoning it in than the first one, and there wasn't much of a script. Great special features. It's always a treat to get any interview from Cynthia Rothrock because she always has such interesting stories and she remembers like everything, it seems like. So her interviews are particularly good. And there's an essay booklet with this, which is outstanding. Some great things talking about kind of Cynthia Rothrock's career and, you know, her importance in martial arts and that type of stuff. And it's just a packed release that is great with two films that you really will enjoy. You know, the first one the most, and then the second one maybe a little bit. But the whole premise is she is going back to her small town after she was a cop in New York. And some things went wrong, and she is going to clean up the town because there's a bad element there now. You know, typical. But yeah, Cynthia OBrien. Oh my gosh. China OBrien. I'm just thinking Cynthia Rothrock. China OBrien movies. My number 14. Okay, now let's talk about my number 13. And for me, it has got to be the Homegrown Horrors Volume 3 release. This is a pack of 3 regional horror films. You have Haunted Ween, Deadly Love, and Revenge. Now, I will say I wasn't a huge fan of Deadly Love, but even though I wasn't big on Deadly Love, it wasn't terrible. And usually with these homegrown horrors, what it is there's like one really good one, and then the other two are kind of stinkers. With this one, Deadly Love is kind of a stinker, but not a full-on stinker. Haunted Ween is a lot of fun, and Revenge is also a lot of fun. I actually think Revenge is my favorite of them. My cat's showing up, Willow. Hi, Willow. You can join me. And Haunted Ween Yeah, I like Revenge the most. Haunted Ween's a lot of fun. I kind of feel like maybe Haunted Ween was kind of where Beck and Woods got their idea for doing the movie Haunt, potentially, because a little similar. But it's always great to see these regional horror films that are very hard to find, typically. And they're just really, they look great. They're fun, like good, dumb fun. And I'm a big fan. This is a great release. Obviously, the artwork's always super phenomenal with this. It has good special features in here for each of the films to kind of talk to the people actually involved with them. So they can, I'm sorry if this is distracting, but she's a cat, you know. She'll settle in. But yeah, it's just great to hear from the people actually involved with these films and kind of what went into getting them made, like in a regional way. And they still have like a lot of passion for these movies. But yeah, Homegrown Horrors Volume 3, great release. That's my number 13. Now going to number 12, this is a DeGosser release. Actually, I only own 2 DeGosser releases. One was Blood Cult, which is actually the prequel, or the Revenge was a sequel to Blood Cult. I did not like Blood Cult like at all as a film. But I did quite like my number 12, which is Cannibal the Musical. This, first time I saw it, you know, Trey Parker film. It's a comedy musical about Alfred Packer, who was a like the first known cannibal in the state of Colorado, and it's ridiculous. You know, it's Trey Parker's humor. It's very funny, in my opinion. I actually laughed out loud watching this a few times, and it's just a great time. It looks as good as it can because it was shot on video, but there's an essay booklet with this. Again, this is a release I didn't think would get an essay booklet, but the essay is very interesting. And between the essay booklet and the special features, they give you a lot about how this film ended up getting made, and it's very fascinating. Then they have a lot of special features, including old Trauma special features that have interviews with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. And those are my favorite, like the interviews with them, because they obviously were like the source material for the film. But all the other stuff, all the other interviews are really interesting as well, getting other people's perspective on the making of this film. So this is a great, fully loaded release. There's so many special features, plus the essay booklet, plus it's a great film. This is a very good release. That's why it is my number 12. Let me verify. Number 12, yes. Okay, now coming in at number 11 is a cinematograph release, and that is Little Darlings. I think this was the very first cinematograph release. I see why they led with this one. This is a very good film. Apparently, a lot of people had wanted to see this film for a long time because it's just kind of been lost-ish. Like, it just hasn't gotten a release on, I don't even think it got a DVD release. I think it was just on VHS, maybe. Could be wrong about that. But Little Darlings is basically a teen coming-of-age comedy set at camp, which I love the setting of it. But it's a film that legitimately is funny, but then it also has so much heart to it, and the acting is outstanding in this film. In addition to that, the special features do a really great job of talking about the context of this film, why it was important, because this was like pre-Porky's. This is kind of more from like a female perspective teen, you know, comedy, teen coming of age comedy. So it's very unique in that sense, and the story behind it is really excellent. And the essays along with it give it so much more depth and context and kind of analysis about the film itself and its importance overall. So this is a phenomenal release. Plus, you know, cinematograph releases always look really cool. I like that kind of like booklet thing that they have. I hate the J cards. I'm not a J card fan at all, but still, this is a phenomenal release. I think it's really, really good, and that's why Little Darlings is my number 11. I really adore that movie. Now going to number 10, some people may be surprised by this one, but Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. I love this release. It is a 4K. Oh, also, by the way, the Little Darlings, also 4K. Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, 4K release, so much fun. First of all, I love the artwork on this. It's outstanding. You have Christopher Lee in a film that is terrible. I mean, this is a bad film, but it is so enjoyably bad, in my opinion. This is actually a movie that I had seen parts of when I was growing up and didn't know what it was until I got this release from Vinegar Syndrome included in my subscribership, and in my subscription, I should say. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is the movie. This is the movie that when I was a kid, I saw parts of it, and I've wondered all my life, what is that movie? It's Howling 2, and I love this film as a so bad it's good film. Not only that, they do have really great special features, and I'm going to check. Yes, and I was like, I believe an essay booklet. Yes, they even have an essay booklet on this one, so they give you a lot of really good information on why this film was made, how this film was made, people's thoughts on why it's so bad, how it turned out that way, and just hearing from people's experiences on set as well. Very, very interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's basically werewolf stuff in, I think it's Romania. And a guy is basically told, your sister's a werewolf, and he has to go and kill her, and a bunch of other werewolves. So, like, there's not a whole lot of story to it. And there's a lot of kind of issues with it that just don't really make sense. But the acting is just a lot of fun in a bad way. And it's just ridiculous and over the top and so much fun. So yeah, my number 10, verified that, Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. I love this release. Now, number 9, we are going back to Cinematograph. Cinematograph is very strong out of the gate for its first year. Love it. Thieves Like Us. Watched the trailer for this one, then ended up buying it because it looked very interesting. It has Keith Carradine, Shelley Duvall, who are the main characters in the film. But it's about Keith Carradine's character, who's kind of just fallen into a life of crime, like robbing banks. He was in jail. He gets out. He's going back to robbing banks. He ends up meeting Shelley Duvall's character, and it's kind of about their romance that forms and how it's so innocent, their romance, and she's so innocent, and he seems so innocent, but he just happens to have fallen into this crime-filled life, and it's just kind of about where things go from there with their relationship and how what he's doing interacts with that versus what life could have been for them had he not been involved in that. But the story is extremely compelling. It's a great script. It's very well shot. The acting is phenomenal. Shelley Duvall's performance in particular is great. Sorry for this again. You can settle in there, buddy. Yeah, Shelley Duvall is unbelievable in this. And this release came out I think a month or so after she passed away. So it was very soon, very timely. Again, lots of great special features kind of talking about the context of the film, doing analysis of the film, especially the essays involved with it. This is a great release. I'm a big fan of this one. So Thieves Like Us by Cinematograph is my number 9. UHD as well, so 4K. Then coming in at number 8, if you can't tell, I'm a Giallo fan, or, it says Giallo. If you can't see it all, there it is. Forgotten Gialli Volume 6. In my opinion, the best of their Forgotten Gialli releases, for me personally. It has in here Death Carries a Cane, Naked You Die, and The Bloodstained Shadow. All films, I had seen The Bloodstained Shadow before, but I had not seen Death Carries a Cane or Naked You Die, and I adore all of these films. I think all these films are, I wouldn't say top-notch Giallo, but they're all very good, fun Giallo films. But part of that for me is that, Giallo's like a comfort genre for me. So I'm typically going to like a lot of Giallo that comes out, but I also recognize when Giallo's bad. Obviously, the packaging in this is pretty great, but the movies are what really make this pack. The quality of the quality of those movies, phenomenal. If you're a Giallo fan, I know there are a lot of people online who have been like, I'm so sick of them putting out Giallo. I'm one of those people who's actually not. I'm one of the people who's like, yes, put out as much Giallo as possible. Because like I said, it's one of my favorite genres. It's a comfort genre for me. I love watching it. Makes me feel cozy just laying on the couch, this couch sometimes, and watching these. But outstanding release. I don't think they're going to put out a Forgotten Gialli that's better than this one. So if you are into Giallo films, this is a must-have, Volume 6, in my opinion. Oh, they also have some really good special features talking to the actual filmmakers and people involved with these movies. But yeah, Forgotten Gialli Volume 6 is my number, have to verify again, 8. I keep getting lost on that because I get talking about the films. All right, so now coming in at number 7, I'm going back again to Cinematograph. Again, like I said, had a great year. Dangerous Game. This is an Abel Ferrara film. And after watching this film, it just made me be like, I need to watch more Abel Ferrara films. Prior to seeing this, I'd seen Bad Lieutenant and I had seen Miss 45, which I like a lot, both of those films. Then I saw Dangerous Game, and this movie seems like it's kind of a mess, but it's also like a very meta film. It's kind of like a movie within a movie within a movie, and it's kind of like Abel Ferrara's life reflecting the script, and the script is based off of a movie being made. So it's like it's like movie Inception. It's very weird, but the performances are so raw, are so good, are so intense with this film that you can't look away. And Madonna's in this film, and she gives a really good performance, but it's not just about how interesting this film is and how it will make you think well after you're done with it and how intense it is and everything. It's a wild ride, but it's also about the special features and the essays included that talk about how this was kind of a mess of a film to be made. I think I remember that they dropped like the first third of the script right before they decided to shoot it. Madonna, I think, actually produced this movie, and she's kind of like disowned it. She hated it. But they have an interview with Abel Ferrara in here, which is phenomenal. Great interview. And like I said, the essay, it just gives so much interesting information. And it draws kind of these parallels between Abel Ferrara's life and how much of that kind of ends up in this movie. And like how much of this film is actually a reflection of him, and how much of this film was actually a reflection of what was truly going on the set, which is troubling. But this is a unbelievable release. I fell in love. Well, I wouldn't say fell in love with this film because it's pretty messed up, but I was mesmerized by it. That's probably a better way to put it, and I can't stop thinking about it. So Dangerous Game is my number 7. Now going on to number 6. Some people may laugh at me for this one, but this is The Instructor. I love So Bad It's Good films, ones that have just like awful acting that's super fun. That is this movie. I also love martial arts films. I also specifically love horribly acted, ridiculous, over-the-top martial arts films, and that is The Instructor. This is just a Blu-ray, but it looks good for what it is. It is very fun and funny, and it's just basically about a martial arts instructor who just, finds out there's a bad element in the town that he's in, and he's going to clean it up. But the last, 15 to 20 minutes of this film have this awesome car chase scene. It's got so much action. It is just wild. Like, if you're not a big fan of a lot of this film, you'll still be interested in that last 15 to 20 minutes because it is just off the rails. It is so much fun. I love this film. Love, love, love it. Terrible acting, ridiculous dialogue, just stupid things happening in the best way possible. Good special features on this one. Not the best, but good special features. Really enjoy The Instructor. That's why it's my number 6. Now going to number 5. Now this is one that a lot of people kind of complained about because of the guy who made the film, but I'm taking that out of it and just looking at it as a release and as a film, and that is Roman Polanski's The Tenant. The other thing is people also talk about like how great this packaging is, which is great. It's very cool packaging, but the movie itself is outstanding. I mean, it's top notch. It's like high art filmmaking. Very compelling story about a guy who ends up moving into an apartment complex, specifically into a room where someone fell to their death recently, and then they start being kind of paranoid about all the other people living in this apartment complex because they seem to be having these weird interactions. And he's like, is there something else going on here? Why did this person end up killing themselves or trying to kill themselves? And then later on, they actually do pass. So he gets so mired in it. And it's this question of, does it have to do with there's actually something going on that's messed up in this building? Or is this person just losing it and he's getting too involved with that previous tenant's death? So that's why it's called The Tenant. Which tenant? Is it the last tenant or the current tenant? But it has a great ending to it too. Extremely well written. They have a lot of good special features on here, kind of digging into the film, the analysis of it, kind of the subtextual stuff with it. And there's a wonderful essay booklet with some phenomenal essays in there. So this is the complete package in many ways. Really enjoyed this release. The Tenant is my number 5. Now coming in at number 4, a movie I had no interest in seeing, but it was part of my subscription, and obviously I ended up enjoying it in certain ways, and that is Singapore Sling. This movie is not for everyone. This is a movie that I probably won't watch again unless I'm showing it to someone to let them know how weird and messed up this film is and what a wild ride it is. It a lot of sexuality to it. It's like extremely sexual. It's very deviant in its sexuality. But this film's kind of noirish as well. It's shot in black and white. It's from Greece. Who's the director on this one? I always forget his name. Nicolaitis. Nicolaitis. Yeah. They didn't have his full name. Oh, Nikos Nicolaitis. Sorry. Apparently, Nikos Nicolaitis has a lot of had a lot of influence on Yorgos Lanthimos. Sorry, it's one of those days. But this film is very weird, but it's also very interesting. It really does suck you in, and it's beautiful at the same time that it's like disgusting and kind of disturbing. The characters are super interesting. The acting is kind of over the top, but in a very interesting, enjoyable, engaging way. And it just goes so many places you don't expect. Now, I watched the movie and I'm like, okay, kind of intriguing, kind of messed up. Like, I'm very kind of like mesmerized again, kind of like with Dangerous Game, was mesmerized by the film. But then you have an essay booklet here and the special features that talk about the importance of this film in Greek cinema and in cinema in general, and also going further into who Nikos Nicolaitis was and kind of, you know, his body of work and the importance of that, which is very, very interesting. And that just kind of sold me even more on this film. So this is actually, whether you're a fan of the film or not, this is actually a phenomenal release. Really surprised me because, like I said, I was not interested in watching it, but that's why I have Singapore Sling as my number 4. Sorry, the stack's getting... I'll just move the stack over here. Try to make sure it doesn't fall. There we go. Distracting. Anyway, all right. Moving on to number 3. I'm going back to Cinematograph. Again, this is the 4th Cinematograph in the top 15. Obviously, they're doing great work. Red Rock West. Love this one. This was their second release. So Little Darlings was their first. Red Rock West was their second. Nicolas Cage neo-noir set in, I think it's like Wyoming. It's like Wyoming or Montana. But basically, he's this guy who is kind of down on his luck, kind of ex-con, I believe. He has, you know, an issue with his leg. He can't get a job. He's kind of down and out with his luck. He rolls into this town, Red Rock West, as he's on his way somewhere else. Meets up with this guy accidentally who thinks he's there to be a contract killer, and he just kind of goes with it. And he's just like, because he's being offered money up front, and he's like, maybe I just take this money and then I just blow town with this money, because obviously taking the money from a terrible person like this is not a problem. But he ends up having a hard time getting out of town. And then the actual killer shows up, who is played by Dennis Hopper. Great film. Very interesting, very fun. Also, Laura Flynn Boyle is in this. Phenomenal performances. It has a beautiful look to it. Wonderful environment it was shot in. I love, love, love this film. I've already watched this a few times. I made my wife watch it with me, and she really enjoyed it. The story is extremely compelling. A lot of great special features, essays as well, as you always get with Cinematograph releases, that kind of dig into the importance of this film and analysis of this film. You know, talking about other neo-noir films of the time that made me want to watch more of them. And yeah, just a great release. I love Red Rock West, so that's why it is my number 3. Now coming in at number 2, a very recent one that they put out, and that is Looking for Mr. Goodbar. This is a wonderful release. Hadn't ever seen this film before. I knew a lot of people were wanting it to be released, and it's a phenomenal film. Diane Keaton is in it. She plays a woman who has had a crappy past with her parents. Some of it's kind of religiously involved. And she's trying to kind of seek her independence. She's kind of begrudgingly taking cues from her older sister, who's living this kind of like wild, uncontrolled life where she's, you know, doing drugs and she's sleeping with a bunch of other people, getting involved in like spouse swapping, all sorts of stuff like that. And it's about kind of how she starts to get into that kind of stuff, and she has this kind of descent. You know, and it's a dichotomy between her regular life, where she's this very smart woman who's very independent, and she's teaching deaf students. And then her nightlife, where she's just so alone and kind of trying to figure out who she is, and she's just going to bars and looking for guys to take home, which she's, says is like part of being independent. And Richard Gere is in this, Tom Berenger is in this. Great acting from the entire cast, in my opinion. And I'm not a Richard Gere fan typically, but his performance very interesting. And it's where this film goes, and it's one of those kind of downward spiral films. You just have to see how far that goes. But phenomenal film itself. Then you have a great essay booklet that talks about not only the importance of this particular film and kind of the real analysis behind analysis of what's going on in the film, but talks about why the film Saturday Night Fever, that came out at the same time, has endured so much, but Looking for Mr. Goodbar has not. They also have a lot of good special features on here. A lot of great interviews talking about the film, kind of behind the scenes stuff. But then also they have a whole portion where it talks about this town in Utah that tried to ban the film and kind of all the legal proceedings of how that went. So that's super interesting as well, and something they haven't done before with their special features. So Looking for Mr. Goodbar is my number 2. It's a outstanding release. Highly recommend. And now people would be wondering, what's my number 1? Sorry, it is not The Keep. The Keep is not on my list mainly because I think that movie is very flawed. Even though it looks beautiful, I really don't like the movie at all. It's not a great movie. Michael Mann even hates it. But anyway, my number 1, what is it? It's Phase 4. Now, this is another one where I kind of didn't want to watch the movie because I had already seen this film some years prior and did not like it. But they put out a closest to the director's vision cut, Vinegar Syndrome did, and it changes the film. In addition, what they have in the essays and the special features adds so much additional context to what's going on in this film, why it is so phenomenal and interesting. Plus, it can't be denied that this is just a beautiful looking film. And I know a lot of people have commented that they really hated this design. I love this design of all the ants like forming a skull. I think it's phenomenal. So this film is about something crashing to Earth that ends up changing ants on Earth, and they start killing people. And it's about these researchers who are kind of trapped because they're surrounded by the ants, and it's kind of them taking on these ants. It's a slow film, but it looks so good, and the performances are so good, and it's such an interesting concept that you just stick with it, or at least I did. I didn't the first time I watched it because that cut just wasn't great, but this is actually a phenomenal film, and it speaks volumes when I have watched a film and I hated it, and then Vinegar Syndrome puts out a new cut of it with so much extra information between the essays and the special features that adds so much context, not just about the film, but about the filmmaker himself and his career, which is super fascinating. And it changes everything. So I couldn't deny that Phase 4 is my number 1 release by Vinegar Syndrome for the year. I know plenty of people would disagree with me, but like I said in the beginning, this is just my top 15. But Phase 4, highly recommend. Anyway, that is it. I would love to hear from you. What were some of your favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases? If you want to do a top 15 in the comments, go ahead and do that. But you also, if you just want to say top 1 or 2 or whatever you want to talk about. But do me a quick favor, because I put a lot of work into these. Thumbs up on this video to help me out with that algorithm. Hit subscribe to my channel to support me. If you want to monetarily pitch in a little bit, I have super thanks enabled with my channel. You can also buy a membership to pay for each month for a very small fee. I think the first one's like $1.99. The second one's $2.99. And there's a link in the description where you can see what that gets you each month, because there are perks. It's not just a straight up donation. You're getting things, including accessing my videos early, which I schedule videos out like sometimes up to 2 months ahead of time. So, but anyway, thank you everyone for taking your time to watch this. I appreciate that. And until next time, keep it brutal.